In Episode 9, Han Li is wanted by the Ten Directions Pavilion in the Immortal Realm. The ancestor at the integration stage, true person Jing Ming, colludes with Bone Flame Scattered Person to plot the killing of Han Li. Because of restrictions between realms, Jing Ming transmits orders down to the Grand Elder at the integration stage, Hat Mountain Taoist, providing him with a Spirit Sword Talisman. Bone Flame passes instructions to the Grand Elder of the Heavenly Ghost Sect, Tong Renan, as well as to Gan Dao Bing. Afterward, 3 Great Ascension cultivators, Hat Mountain, Tong Renan, and Duan Renli join forces to lure Han Li into the Immortal Cave treasure. However, they are instead killed by Han Li using a counterattack through a transformation technique. Everyone is invited to follow the developments of the next episode. Inside, Tong Renan of Bloodlight roars in pain and frustration. He snorts coldly as his body emits waves of violent tremors. The muscles all over his body squirm as if alive, then rapidly expand. In the blink of an eye, Tong Renan has transformed into a gigantic ghost creature. Its face is green with protruding fangs, standing nearly 100 jang tall. This ghost is somewhat similar to the Crimson Blood Heavenly Ghost previously summoned by Duan Renli. It is also a heavenly ghost, but far more terrifying. On the surface of its massive body appear 2 crimson lines seeping with a mysterious aura. Even more bizarre, its chest, abdomen, arms, and even legs are covered with countless eyes, numbering over 100, constantly blinking and emitting a dim black glow that makes one's scalp prickle with fear. On its forehead, there is also a gigantic vertical eye embedded between its brows, making it appear even more ferocious, though this eye is currently tightly shut. As soon as the 100-eyed Heavenly Ghost manifests, a powerful aura far surpassing before instantly spreads outward, causing the surrounding space itself to tremble. At this moment, silver lightning flashes, and a silver lightning rock over 20 jang long arrives. Seeing the 100-eyed Heavenly Ghost transformed from Tong Renan, its eyes reveal a trace of surprise. The lightning rock immediately spreads its wings wide, thunder roaring as countless strands of silver lightning appear around its body. One massive lightning claw suddenly lashes forward with a sharp whistling sound. An enormous claw projection materializes and descends toward the head of the 100-eyed Heavenly Ghost. Before the claw even lands, a terrifying brute force crashes down, making the surrounding space feel thick and viscous. Facing such an attack, the 100-eyed Heavenly Ghost shows no fear. It forms hand seals, and half of the eyes on its body light up simultaneously, shooting out streams of black light. More than 10 beams converge to form a black light net that blocks the lightning tide. At that instant, a faint fluctuation of laws suddenly emerges from the black net. The lightning claw vanishes on the spot, then reappears several hundred jang away as if through instantaneous movement. With a loud boom, the claw strikes down, and countless silver lightning bolts explode outward, violently shaking the surrounding space. The lightning rock shows surprise, then spreads its wings again. 2 bolts of lightning shoot out, appearing on either side of the Heavenly Ghost and attacking simultaneously. The 100-eyed Heavenly Ghost's body lights up once more, firing 2 beams of black light to intercept them. Subtle law fluctuations spread again, and the rock's attacks vanish midair, then reappear several hundred jang away, colliding and exploding loudly. Not far away, Hat Mountain Taoist witnesses this scene and secretly rejoices. Several breaths have already passed, and he is exerting all his strength to activate his technique, causing the diagram above to gradually solidify. The rock transformed by Han Li pauses its attacks, seeming to ignore Hat Mountain Taoist, and instead speaks to the 100-eyed Heavenly Ghost before it. It is unexpected that in the spirit realm, one could see a cultivator using the power of space. You truly deserve to be called the foremost figure of this realm. Han Taoist, you and I actually bear no personal grudge. There was no need to pursue this matter to the end. This incident originated from the upper realm, and we were merely acting under orders. Duan Renli is already dead, so you should have vented your anger. Although your abilities are vast, if you truly cause the spirit realm to collapse, the upper realm will certainly not ignore it. The 100-eyed Heavenly Ghost speaks with a tone that is half threatening, half conciliatory. So this really is related to the ancestors of your 2 factions. However, they are high above in the Immortal realm, and what is happening here is already beyond their reach. The lightning rock sneers. Do you dare? The 100-eyed Heavenly Ghost is startled, but before it can finish speaking, the lightning rock suddenly raises its head and lets out a sharp cry. Blinding silver lightning surges again around its body, gathering at its 2 claws and forming a gigantic circular lightning net. At the same time, clusters of silver talisman symbols flash and pour into the lightning. The lightning suddenly condenses, erupting into brilliant silver light that forms 2 crackling thunder spheres. The surfaces of the spheres are covered in dense silver talismans, with faint arcs of electricity dancing around them. A low rumbling sound emanates, carrying an aura of utter destruction. This is the lightning sacrifice technique. The lightning within the spheres is the rock's own silver lightning power, making it different from the evil-dispelling divine lightning Han Li used in the past. The hundred-eyed heavenly ghost lets out a low roar. Red and black talismans on its body bloom simultaneously, and all the eyes across its form flare open. The lightning rock raises its claws, and the two thunder spheres shoot forward at extreme speed, then explode. Two blazing silver suns appear in midair, lightning flashing as countless talismans swirl, carrying an earth-shattering destructive force that presses down. Even though Tong Renan had anticipated the might of Han Li's strike, seeing it with his own eyes causes his expression to change drastically. The heavenly ghost he has transformed into screams, as all 100 eyes open wide, veins bursting with bloodshot intensity. Streams of black light, twice as thick as before, shoot out and intertwine into an enormous black net. At the same time, the giant eye on the ghost's forehead suddenly opens, revealing a pitch-black pupil. A beam of black light shoots forth and merges into the net, which flares and transforms into a black light barrier that envelops the heavenly ghost from head to toe. The two silver suns descend and crash into the black barrier. The black net shines brightly as violent law fluctuations erupt. Half of the thundersphere light instantly freezes as if sealed, but the remaining half continues to press down. The barrier trembles, flashing repeatedly, but not fully dissipating. Both sides fall into a stalemate. At this moment, a deafening explosion rings out. The black barrier suddenly expands, its surface covered with countless black talismans. The two silver suns flash, then vanish on the spot. Far away, a tremendous boom echoes as the two thunderspheres explode, scattering into two colossal pillars of lightning that shoot straight into the sky, easily piercing the gray clouds above, while their lower halves plunge deep into the earth, carving out two vast chasms. The immense power spreads across a 10-li radius, raising towering tornadoes. Meanwhile, the black barrier disperses, revealing the figure of the hundred-eyed heavenly ghost. Its body is in a miserable state, gasping for breath. More than 100 eyes across its body are half open and half closed, their black glow extremely dim, clearly showing severe damage to its vital essence. Seeing this, Hat Mountain Taoist is shaken, but the hand seals he is forming have reached their final stage. As several seals are struck out, the diagram above suddenly radiates dazzling light and becomes fully solid, clearly revealing a silver moon moonlight diagram. Hat Mountain Taoist is overjoyed. He rapidly changes hand seals and simultaneously spits out a mouthful of essence blood, which flashes once before, merging into the silver moon diagram. Within the diagram, a hazy silver full moon suddenly releases clusters of white clouds. They spin briefly, then gather together, forming a vortex that flickers with silver light. From within the vortex came waves of spatial power fluctuations, accompanied by rolling thunder from the deepest part of the vortex. A faint white point of light could be seen. The moment the spatial passage opened, both the hundred-eyed heavenly ghost and the lightning rock transformed by Han Li looked over at it at the same time. The former showed joy, while the latter's eyes suddenly flickered with blue light. Hat Mountain Taoist's gaze swept quickly over the hundred-eyed heavenly ghost, then immediately stopped on the lightning rock. Fear surged in his heart, and he hurriedly turned and fled like a rabbit into the silver vortex. A moment later, the vortex trembled and instantly dissipated like foam, turning into countless points of silver light that flickered a few times before vanishing without a trace. Only faint spatial fluctuations remained in the void. From the moment the spatial passage opened until it closed, it lasted less than a single breath. The hundred-eyed heavenly ghost saw that Hat Mountain Taoist not only fled alone, but also closed the spatial passage behind him, and it could not restrain its anger, its face turning livid. Meanwhile, the lightning rock transformed by Han Li withdrew its gaze, looking as if it were thinking about something. In that brief instant, it had grasped every change in the spatial vortex from opening to closing. Taoist, right now only you and I are left here. That is also good. Let us settle all the grudges between me and your sect once and for all, the lightning rock said coldly. As soon as it finished speaking, the silver lightning on its body suddenly blazed, and a thunderclap erupted. The massive figure standing there vanished without a trace. The hundred-eyed heavenly ghost felt intense terror. It suppressed its rage toward Hat Mountain Taoist, its pupils shrinking as its hands rapidly formed seals. From its body surged countless strands of black chi that rapidly condensed into thick black tentacles. Violent winds also rose around it in waves. But suddenly, a thunderclap sounded behind it. Silver light flashed, and the lightning rock's figure appeared. Its two enormous claws flickered, turning into blurred afterimages as they lunged at extreme speed toward the ghost's back. Yet the black tentacles behind the heavenly ghost reacted just as quickly. They whipped in a lightning-fast arc and instantly wrapped around the lightning rock. Surprise flashed in the rock's eyes. Immediately, the silver lightning around its body surged violently, and countless silver talisman symbols appeared within the lightning. Bang, 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 those talismans exploded one after another, releasing innumerable silver lightning strands that blasted the black tentacles into ragged holes like a honeycomb, then shattered them into black chi that quickly dissipated. The hundred-eyed heavenly ghost's back was also affected by the silver lightning. A thick arc of lightning struck it, shattering 7 or 8 of its eyes, with black blood streaming out. It let out a cry of pain, its body flashing as it desperately shot forward to flee. Rumbling thunder echoed again from behind. The lightning rock clawed at the void, and the lightning around its body gathered, suddenly condensing into 2 silver thunder spheres. It raised its claws, and the 2 spheres shot upward into the gray clouds overhead. A moment later, a world-shaking explosion erupted within the clouds. Blazing silver lightning tore the cloud layer open and poured down in dazzling rays. 2 thick silver lightning pillars then blasted out from the clouds, covered with countless silver talisman symbols, rapidly striking toward the direction the 100-eyed heavenly ghost was fleeing. The heavenly ghost panicked. Black light erupted from its body as the eyes across it forced themselves open again, black radiance flickering as it tried to unleash spatial laws. At that moment, a cold snort like bone-chilling ice suddenly rang out from within it, followed by a loud explosion inside its head. It was as if someone had driven a heavy spike into its brain. Its body and soul were torn apart in unbearable agony. The heavenly ghost clutched its head with both hands and let out a miserable scream. Black blood poured from all 7 facial openings. The black light within nearly 100 of its eyes became chaotic, then completely dissipated. While its mind was still reeling from the deafening thunder, 2 silver lightning pillars slammed down onto its body. A thunderous explosion roared as the 100-eyed heavenly ghost released a shrill, wretched cry. Its body was instantly pierced through, leaving 2 huge holes, one of them directly in its chest. Its form was almost blasted in half. Dark red blood gushed out in torrents. Its shattered body crashed from the sky and slammed into the ground with a heavy, grinding impact. The 100-eyed heavenly ghost rapidly shrank, and in the blink of an eye it turned back into a short, bald old man. 2 massive holes gaped in his abdomen and chest. The injuries looked extremely severe. Blood poured from his mouth, his face filled with terror, his eyes utterly dim. But in the next instant, a fierce expression surfaced. His hands rapidly formed seals as a ring of black starlight around his body moved in chaotic disorder. His body first shrank, then suddenly expanded wildly as he began to self-detonate in midair. In the lightning rock's mouth came a low mutter. A bright silver arc of lightning flared beneath its abdomen, appearing once again. It surged and gathered in a rolling mass, and in an instant formed a silver thunder sphere that shot downward at high speed. Booming thunder echoed. Tongrenan completed his self-detonation a step faster. A violent shockwave erupted, tearing the surrounding space open. From the rift in the void, masses of pitch-black light surged forth, causing the descending silver thunder sphere to slow slightly. With a sharp sound, a nascent soul only a few inches tall shot out from the black light. It flashed, vanished through instantaneous movement, and in the next blink appeared more than 10 jang away. A protective aura flared around it, turning into a streak of black light as it attempted to teleport again. The sequence sounded slow, but it happened in an instant. Suddenly, the silver thunder sphere exploded, transforming into an enormous silver sun that expanded outward in all directions. In a flash, it engulfed the nascent soul. With a whoosh, an object burst out from within the silver radiance, flashing once as it flew toward the lightning rock in the air. A moment later, the silver sun slowly dissipated, revealing on the ground a pitch-black crater. Tongrenan had completely vanished, leaving no trace behind. Silver light flashed, the lightning rock vanished, and Han Li's figure appeared. In one hand, he held a red pouch emitting a faint pink glow. After repeatedly transforming and fighting fiercely, Han Li's face had turned ashen and extremely pale. His magical power within his core was also drained to the bottom. He put away the pink pouch, then took out a 1,000-year cloud crane herb and swallowed it. He raised his head and looked into the void, muttering under his breath. With a sweep of his sleeve, 7 streaks of black light flew out and halted in midair. They were 7 Star Moon treasure mirrors he had refined earlier from Yin Spirit Stone. They arranged themselves vaguely in the pattern of 7 stars. Han Li formed hand seals, and beams of light landed one after another on the 7 mirrors. At once, the Star Moon treasure mirrors began spinning, releasing dazzling starlight radiance. Many black talisman symbols shot out and leapt into the starlight. His hand seals continued shifting without pause. The Star Moon treasure mirrors let out low humming sounds. The radiance grew brighter and brighter, but they also trembled unceasingly, becoming more and more unstable. "Explode!" Han Li shouted softly, urging his hand seals onward. Bang, bang, bang. The 7 light mirrors released dazzling radiance and then exploded at the same time, turning into 7 enormous rings of starlight. Han Li's expression tightened. His hands continuously formed seals, and under the urging of his technique, those rings of starlight quickly condensed. After a short while, they became 7 massive astral phantoms. At a glance, they looked like the 7 stars of the Big Dipper. Seeing this, Han Li suddenly changed the hand seals. The radiance of the 7 astral phantoms abruptly linked together, vaguely forming a great astral formation. Han Li let out a low shout and formed a strange hand sign. With a ripping sound, the astral formation blazed brightly, then seemed to be torn open by 2 giant hands, pulling it apart to either side. A pitch-black rift appeared, releasing dense darkness. Yet deep within that darkness, there seemed to be a point of light glowing. In midair, at the integration stage star-gathering platform, the enormous silver moon diagram was trembling violently. At its center, it suddenly shattered open, forming a spatial crack. A green figure shot out and hovered in the void. It was Han Li. At this moment, the formation restrictions within a 100 Li radius centered on the star-gathering platform still remained. Above, the huge silver moon diagram continued to radiate bright silver light, blending with 7 colored radiance in the 4 directions, reflecting the inner space into a dazzling, multicolored world. Hat Mountain Taoist, who had escaped earlier, was nowhere to be seen. Han Li's figure flickered, appearing before the light barrier. He threw 3 consecutive punches, blasting a hole through the barrier, then shot through and flew outside. The surroundings outside the integration stage area were still quiet. Night covered everything, with no other abnormal signs. Han Li frowned and released his spiritual sense to sweep downward. Suddenly, he turned his head, his eyes coldly fixing on a distant mountain peak that soared into the sky. A moment later, his body transformed into a streak of azure light, flying like lightning toward that mountain. But at that very moment, a sudden change occurred. The ground around the towering mountain began to tremble. More than 10 thick yellow pillars of light shot up from underground, each 4 or 5 zhang wide and reaching into the clouds. The yellow pillars were filled with spirit markings, radiating, surging spiritual power. The pillars suddenly shone brilliantly, forming dense yellow light screens, and together they became a thick yellow curtain. From afar, it looked like an enormous mass of dense yellow clouds covering the entire towering mountain below. Inside the great hall atop the mountain stood a 3-tier jade platform, entirely built from a type of yellow crystal. The platform narrowed as it rose. The lowest tier spanned dozens of zhang, while the top tier was only 2 to 3 zhang wide. It was covered in yellow talisman symbols. Around the platform stood several sturdy yellow jade pillars, also carved with countless dense talismans. Hat Mountain Taoist suddenly appeared there, sitting cross-legged on the 3rd tier. His face was still calm, but deep in his eyes, a trace of terror betrayed his true state of mind. He murmured under his breath, his 10 fingers shifting rapidly. He fired off streams of seals, and the dozens of jade pillars around the platform continuously flashed with yellow light, coordinating smoothly with the grand formation outside. At this time, 7 or 8 integration stage cultivators from the integration stage area were also sitting cross-legged on the 2nd tier of the jade platform. They too were murmuring, channeling their power into the jade platform. Outside the towering mountain, a streak of azure light tore through the air and arrived. It flashed and stopped outside the grand formation, and Han Li's figure appeared. He swept his gaze across the yellow radiance that covered the entire mountain. His eyes narrowed slightly. He drew a deep breath, and a crackling sound came from within his body as it rapidly expanded. Golden fur, like a monkey's, sprouted across his body. In an instant, he transformed into a colossal, golden-furred giant ape, towering and massive. The golden-furred giant ape slammed its fists into its chest with a thud, releasing an extremely violent aura. The yellow cloud grand formation beside it also shook violently. Inside, on Sky-Soaring Peak, Hat Mountain Taoist and the others watched through the yellow cloud light curtain. Seeing the terrifying giant ape, they were all filled with fear. Hat Mountain Taoist seemed to break into a bit of sweat. His hands repeatedly tapped at the jade pillars around him, and he chanted frantically. The yellow light on the pillars grew brighter and brighter, and the yellow radiance covering the mountain thickened into an additional layer, becoming ever more solid and distinct. The golden-furred giant ape raised its head and howled. Then it swung its fur-covered fist and smashed downward. The enormous fist carried dazzling golden light and power like 10,000 forces, charging through the void and forming a murky, raging golden tornado that slammed into the yellow cloud light curtain. A deafening explosion erupted, like a mountain collapsing. 2 rings of golden light surged up, like 2 suns colliding. The blinding light made it impossible to look directly. The outer light curtain shook violently. The impact site caved into deep pits, and tearing sounds rang out without end. Spiderweb-like cracks appeared around it, rapidly spreading to nearby areas. On Sky-Soaring Peak, the 3-tier jade platform and the surrounding jade pillars shook continuously. The light barrier around the platform also trembled violently. There were even a few small cracks along the jade platform stairs. Several integration stage cultivators felt their core centers trembling in sync with the platform and spat out mouthfuls of blood. Their faces could no longer remain calm. This Heavenly Kui and Earth Protection Formation had protected Sky-Soaring Peak for countless years. Several formation masters within the sect guided by ancestor Jing Ming, had spent a full 100 years laying it out. Yet, just now, it had nearly been shattered by a single punch. Hat Mountain Taoist's body trembled, his face tightening. He shouted, "All of you, stabilize it for me!" A flicker of panic passed through his eyes. He gritted his teeth and spat out a mouthful of blood, which turned into a cloud of blood and merged into a nearby jade pillar. At the same time, his hands rapidly formed seals, and the power within his body surged into the jade platform. The integration stage cultivators around him saw this and simultaneously began casting as well. The 10 massive light pillars within the formation suddenly shone brilliantly, and cloud-shaped yellow patterns appeared. The cracks caused by the golden-furred giant ape quickly restored themselves. The golden-furred giant ape let out a cold snort. Its other arm also erupted in brilliant golden light, and it smashed down again in a frenzy. Boom, boom, another gigantic golden fist struck the same spot as before, creating waves of golden force that surged outward in all directions as if it could swallow everything. The formation shook violently. The yellow clouds outside billowed, erupting into pillars of golden chi that shot chaotically around. The light curtain above the formation was forced inward twice as deep as before. The cracks spread again, growing denser and denser. With a loud crack, the enormous formation finally collapsed completely. Sky-soaring peaks shook violently. The 3-tier jade platform let out a series of cracking sounds, and then a huge rift appeared. The platform split into 2 halves. The ground beneath it also shattered, forming 7 or 8 large fissures. The bodies of the integration stage cultivators trembled like sieves. Then they immediately collapsed onto the jade platform, blood gushing from their mouths. Their auras rapidly declined. Hat Mountain Taoist's face also turned deathly pale. He suddenly stood up. Just as he was about to act further, an enormous explosion rang out. The restriction formation planted on the roof of the Great Hall erupted with countless cracks, then collapsed with a crash, shattering into pieces. A fist as large as a small room came crashing down from the sky, aimed straight at Hat Mountain Taoist's head. A deep humming vibration echoed. Hat Mountain Taoist flipped one hand and pulled out a silver whisk, then swung it, sending out countless strands of silver thread. With his other hand, he formed seals. The silver threads filling the sky instantly gathered together, transforming into a silver Qilin phantom that collided with the golden fish shadow. The entire Great Hall was completely smashed into countless fragments. The integration stage cultivators were swept away by the raging storm, but fortunately, they reacted quickly, activating various treasures to protect themselves so they were not too seriously injured. A massive figure was blown backward by the storm. It was Hat Mountain Taoist. In his hand, the silver whisk was now only half remaining. Deep in his eyes, fear was plainly visible. He hurriedly shouted, "Han Taoist, wait!" Before Hat Mountain Taoist could finish, golden light flashed. The huge golden-furred giant ape's body flickered, appearing ghost-like in front of him. A golden palm like an enormous mountain slammed down. The giant palm alternated between fast and slow, releasing a brutal force that seemed able to crush the entire void. Explosive booms rang out. Hat Mountain Taoist's expression panicked. He opened his mouth and spat out a mass of white light. In front of him appeared a black ancient inkstone. A faint gleam flowed across its surface, clearly showing it was an extremely sturdy treasure of high rank. The inkstone spun rapidly and grew larger. Countless talisman symbols appeared upon it, and a thick black pillar of light shot out, rising to block the giant palm. Taking advantage of the moment, Hat Mountain Taoist shot backward, fleeing into the distance. At the same time, the white light in his hand flickered, and a white jade rui appeared. A low roar sounded. The mountain-like giant ape spread its 5 fingers forward. Yellow spirit markings appeared across its palm. In an instant, a force 2 to 3 times stronger than before erupted from the giant palm, effortlessly crushing the black pillar of light. Then it seized the black inkstone in one hand and squeezed hard. With a loud crack, the treasure shattered. Its body blurred again, and it reappeared in an eerie instant behind Hat Mountain Taoist not far away. A golden furry fist flashed out like lightning. The yellow markings on its surface suddenly brightened, and a wave of golden force surged forward in a punch. Hat Mountain Taoist suddenly spun around. He violently swung his arm, and white light flashed as he hurled the white jade rui. Red, yellow, and blue radiance alternated across its surface. A mixed, tricolored spiritual flame shot upward, met in midair, and condensed. In the blink of an eye, it transformed into a tricolored phoenix more than 100 zhong in size, fiercely blocking the giant ape's incoming punch. Brilliant tricolored light surged and contracted as it burst from the fire phoenix, illuminating more than half the sky. In that instant, everything around seemed to fade and dim. A world-shaking explosion roared upward into the air, echoing across the entire integration stage area. Countless inner disciples were terrified and flew out in confusion. With different expressions, they all looked toward distant sky-soaring peak. At this moment, The sky had split into two regions. One side was filled with golden radiance, the other with red, yellow, blue, tricolored light. The two forces continued to clash, producing thunderous detonations that rolled for 1,000 Li. The ground around sky-soaring peaks shook violently. Tornado-like storms rose into the heavens, expanding outward. Nearby trees were uprooted, and huge rocks were swept away. The ground seemed to be stripped and shattered. The two terrifying forces grappled for several breaths. Then the golden radiance rapidly overwhelmed the tricolored light, twisting it apart with ease. The tricolored fire phoenix let out a wail as its body shattered under the crushing gold light and completely dispersed. Hat Mountain Taoist was thrown backward by the terrifying shockwave. In his hand, he held a jade rui that was now emerald green. With a pop, it burst apart. He was sent flying several Li away, slammed into a mountain, and then fell amid a rain of shattered stones. Boom! The enormous mountain-like giant ape dropped from the sky, landing on the ground not far in front of Hat Mountain Taoist. The earth shook violently, rocks spraying outward. Two massive footprints appeared in the ground. The giant ape lowered its head, its golden pupils icy as it stared at the large figure on the ground. Han Taoist. Han Senior. Please, listen to my explanation. This matter is not what you think. Hat Mountain Taoist was so frightened his soul nearly left his body. Seeing that the giant ape had not yet delivered a killing blow, he hurriedly spoke. In his heart, he regretted everything. If he had known it would come to this, he should have gone deeper into the Immortal Cave at once and escaped the integration stage area. Then perhaps he would still have had a slim chance of survival, but at that moment, a sudden change occurred. Several booming explosions came from the distant sky, clearly from the direction of the star-gathering platform. The golden-furred giant ape's brow furrowed, and it turned its head to look. Hat Mountain Taoist's heart also jolted, and he too looked over. Near the star-gathering platform, 8 mountains rumbled and shook. Their peaks directly exploded and collapsed. 8 pillars of light rose, flickered, and vanished. The formation light barrier surrounding the area flashed once, then abruptly shattered. However, the enormous silver moon in the sky did not disappear. Instead, it became even more dazzling than sunlight. It suddenly trembled, and invisible waves of force swept outward in all directions, once again stirring the void for several hundred Li, shattering trees and collapsing mountain peaks. Then, light radiating from the silver moon's surface gathered downward. It spun violently and transformed into an enormous vortex. The surrounding region alternated between deep red and blue, with all kinds of multicolored radiance appearing in turn. Many different lights flickered and intertwined, making the void tremble violently. The disciples in the integration stage area all stood stunned, mouths agape, silent as they witnessed this strange phenomenon. The golden-furred giant ape looked at the massive vortex in the sky, blue light flickering in its eyes. It suddenly raised a hand and grabbed, releasing a tremendous suction force. "Spare me!" Hat Mountain Taoist shouted. He struggled to stand, but he had no power to resist, and was easily pulled into the giant ape's palm. The giant ape clenched its hand tightly. It opened its mouth and spat out a silver firebird. This was the Essence Flame Firebird. It flashed, turning into a rope of silver flame that wrapped around Hat Mountain Taoist several times. The giant ape then swung its arm and threw Hat Mountain Taoist away. It immediately turned back, once again, staring toward the spatial vortex in the sky, its expression solemn. Hat Mountain Taoist crashed heavily to the ground. His vision swam with sparks. He felt the terrifying flame power contained within the silver rope, and his heart trembled. He could only lie obediently to the side, not daring to move at all, afraid of provoking the other side. In the sky, the vortex around the silver moon had doubled in size. At the deepest part of the vortex, a faint layer of crystal-like wall could be seen. Behind it was a blank white expanse, as if it came from another world. At that moment, the radiance of the crystal barrier layer flashed, as if it had been struck by something from the other side. With a thunderous rumble, the enormous silver moon trembled slightly. A crack opened in the vortex on the surface of the crystal barrier, and with a sharp sound, a dazzling golden pillar of light shot out. It fell downward at extreme speed. The crystal barrier instantly closed again as before, and the vortex suddenly shrank and disappeared. The blue light in the eyes of the golden-furred giant ape transformed by Han Li flickered. He immediately saw clearly through everything within the yellow light curtain. It was a golden bean, identical to the golden bean Duan Renli had released earlier from the gourd, but much larger. Its surface was covered with countless mysterious talisman symbols. The large golden bean suddenly stopped in midair and spun rapidly, pouring out innumerable yellow talismans. Brilliant light spread outward, covering an area of more than 100 jang, forming a twisting, flickering yellow light curtain that looked like a pool of golden liquid suspended in the sky. Immediately after, a cracking sound rang out. The golden bean seemed to sprout, growing at an unimaginable speed. From sprouting to developing to taking shape 1 jang, 10 jang, 50 jang, 100 jang, all within a single breath. The golden bean, originally only the size of a peach pit, transformed into a yellow turban giant more than 100 jang tall, radiating golden light across several hundred jang around its body. This giant was nearly identical to the yellow turban power form, with its upper body bare, a yellow cloth wrapped around its waist, empty hands, and murderous intent surging. The muscles on its arms and thighs bulged violently, looking as if they were cast from refined steel, giving an overwhelming sense of oppression. After a moment, the silver moon trembled again, beginning to pour out countless dense golden points. They were precisely the golden beans that had seemed to be lost earlier in the Immortal Cave treasure. They scattered down like rain. A bizarre scene appeared. As soon as these golden beans touched the golden light around the yellow turban giant's body, they were immediately pulled toward it by some force. Each golden bean merged silently into the giant's body, causing it to grow taller again. The massive body absorbed thousands of golden beans, becoming even larger, surging to a height of nearly 1,000 jang. It stood towering between heaven and earth, making the majestic surrounding mountains appear small. A colossal aura spread outward in all directions from its body. My heavens, what is this thing? It's far too enormous. Whatever it is, it clearly didn't come with good intentions. I just saw the Grand Elder about to be defeated by the golden-furred giant ape. Why did this thing suddenly appear? There's no point saying that now. What matters is running for our lives. The disciples of the integration stage area within a 1,000-li radius were terrified out of their wits. Many abandoned everything and fled in all directions, releasing escape lights in panic. However, quite a few bold ones believed that watching from afar posed no immediate danger and stayed behind. Most of these were void refinement cultivators, and even some at the integration stage, though each wore a different expression. At this time, the silver light of the enormous silver moon in midair flickered continuously and rapidly shrank. Before long, it was only the size of a silver tray, still more than 10 jang across. Then the small silver moon, like a thin sheet of paper, detached from a silver scroll and gently drifted down, bursting into flames. The surroundings, which had been illuminated by starlight, were now bathed once more in flickering sunlight. The golden-furred giant ape paid no attention to the changes of the silver moon. From beginning to end, its gaze was fixed on the yellow turban giant standing in midair. The blue light in its eyes no longer flickered. If his guess was correct, the yellow turban giant formed from the golden beans most likely originated from the immortal realm and might even be connected to the 3 true immortal ancestors of the Heavenly Ghost sect. This carried profound implications. Han Li's thoughts stirred, his emotions surging like waves. But at that moment, the yellow turban giant's expression shifted. A vague human face phantom appeared, its complexion sallow like wax. It stared coldly at the golden-furred giant ape. Its massive body instantly shot forward like a meteor, flashing into position before the ape. Its right arm lifted violently and swung out, unleashing a massive golden punch. A golden shockwave spread outward like a raging tide. Wherever it passed, grass, trees, and mountains shattered like foam. The golden-furred giant ape roared. Its body rapidly expanded to 100 jang tall. Brilliant silver light flared as countless silver spirit markings appeared on its arms, layering together into silver formation patterns that covered both arms. A terrifying brute force erupted along with its roar. It threw a punch, accompanied by a hazy silver tornado. The 2 fists, one gold, one silver, vastly mismatched in size, collided with a deafening boom. 2-colored radiance suddenly blazed, then exploded, twisting and shaking the surrounding void with a deep humming resonance. The golden-furred giant ape was violently shaken. The silver light on its arms shattered loudly. Its 100 jang body was hurled backward. With several explosive crashes, 3 or 4 small mountains in its path were smashed apart. Only after it slammed deeply into the slope of a colossal mountain more than 1,000 jang tall, sinking over 100 jang into it, did its body barely come to a stop. The giant mountain shook violently as countless rocks rained down on the verge of collapse. Pavilions, towers, caves, and herb gardens on the mountain, and its slopes were all reduced to rubble in an instant. From the depression in the mountain wall, the golden-furred giant ape flew out, shaking dust from its body. Though it bore no visible injuries, fear flashed in its eyes. Although the power within its body was still shallow and it could not fully unleash the might of the mountain giant ape form, the strength of the yellow turban giant before it was truly terrifying. Even it felt a sense of being unable to contend. With a loud boom, more than 10 li away, the yellow turban giant, having also been forced back, came to a halt. Its feet slammed into the ground, making the earth quake. Then its knees bent slightly, and its body leaned back. With another thunderous explosion, the void rang out. Visible abnormal ripples spread outward. The yellow turban giant shot forward like a falling star, arriving above the golden-furred giant ape in an instant. 2 enormous golden hands suddenly clawed downward. Though surprised by the opponent's speed, Han Li, transformed into the giant ape, did not panic. A green light suddenly erupted from his body. He flipped in midair, transforming into a massive azure bird 40 to 50 zhang long, with a phoenix head and long azure tail, clearly the Azure Luan transformation. The Azure Luan spread its wings and vanished instantly without a trace, causing the yellow turban giant to grasp at empty air. A series of thunderous booms echoed across heaven and earth. Unable to withdraw its attack in time, the giant's enormous golden hands slammed into the 1,000 zhang peak behind where the ape had been. The mountain peak was violently torn apart. Hundreds of zhang of rock at the summit shattered and fell, crushing 2 mountains behind it and once again causing the earth to tremble across hundreds of li. With a sharp whistling sound, a green afterimage flashed behind the giant. The Azure Luan appeared. 2 massive, razor-sharp talons wrapped in layers of green light slashed fiercely at the giant's back. With a tearing sound, several long wounds appeared on the yellow turban giant's back, though they were not deep. For such a colossal body, they were insignificant. The giant reacted slowly yet swiftly, swinging its arm backward. A wave of violent brute force, carrying a mountain-crushing, sea-filling momentum, swept through the void, detonations ringing out endlessly. The Azure Luan's 2 wings trembled lightly. Its body turned into a blur of azure shadow and vanished once again. In the next moment, it appeared right in front of the giant. It swung a wing fiercely, and several hundred feathers suddenly shot out. Spinning rapidly, they transformed into several huge green wind blades, dozens of zhang long. Each wind blade flashed with extreme sharpness as they slashed into the giant's massive body. With a tearing sound, several wounds were cut across its chest and abdomen, making the yellow turban giant furious. It immediately spun its head around and swung an arm forward, but it only struck an Azure Luan afterimage, sending out waves of invisible force. Light flickered in the Azure Luan's eyes. Its body immediately split into vague afterimages, circling the giant, seeking opportunities to kill it. The yellow turban giant's strength was truly unimaginable, but fortunately its defensive ability was not outstanding. The Azure Luan's attacks could still wound it. Although the wounds looked small, they could accumulate, and, overall, were enough to threaten the opponent. At that moment, threads of golden light suddenly flashed across the yellow turban giant's chest, rapidly spreading over its entire body. Wherever the golden light passed, the wounds on its back and chest quickly closed. After a few breaths, they vanished without any trace. Seeing this, the Azure Luan froze for a moment. Then its bird eyes narrowed slightly. It let out a sharp cry, pushing its speed to the limit as it flew up and down around the yellow turban giant. From time to time, it unleashed extremely fierce wind attribute attacks. Although the yellow turban giant's power was immense, its speed was far from matching the Azure Luan's famed swiftness. It flailed both arms wildly but could not touch even a shadow of its opponent. However, within a radius of hundreds of li, mountains more than 100 zhang tall were crushed one after another by a single stomp, while slightly taller peaks were punched until they collapsed. An azure shadow darted around the yellow turban giant's body, quickly leaving it covered in wounds. Yet whenever a thin ring-like light screen appeared over the giant's chest, any wound, no matter its form, would heal within a few breaths. Not only that, the yellow turban giant's movements gradually became more nimble, as if it had begun to grasp the trajectory of the Azure Luan's swift footwork. Little by little, it could keep pace with the Azure Luan's ghost-like speed. The two of them constantly shifted the battlefield across the integration stage area. One mountain after another shattered, countless structures collapsed with roaring crashes. For a time, explosions rang out everywhere within the integration stage area, dust clouds spreading across all directions. Seeing this, even the high-level cultivators, no matter how bold, no longer dared to stay. They fled in all directions. Hap Mountain Taoist lay on the ground, watching his enormous sect crumble into ruins in an instant. He could not help but feel intense pain. If this continued, the foundation built over 1,000,000 years could be completely destroyed in just moments. But when he raised his head and saw the 2 monstrous beings, one huge, one smaller, he could only swallow his bitterness, forcing a silent, bitter smile. A deafening boom suddenly sounded. Below, golden light shimmered. A gigantic golden palm, as large as several mu, descended from the sky without any pause, slamming fiercely toward the vague azure shadow. The azure shadow twisted rapidly in an extremely strange motion, sliding along the giant palm to escape. Boom! Like a massive mountain crushing down, the giant palm smashed into a mountain. A heaven-shaking explosion erupted as the entire mountain instantly exploded and collapsed. The azure shadow flashed. In an instant, it appeared behind the yellow turban giant's right arm, which was still connected to the giant palm. Green light around its body surged violently, releasing dazzling radiance. In that same instant, all of it converged into a pair of sharp talons that slashed downward. With piercing tearing sounds, dozens of razor-sharp green claw strikes formed a large net, slashing toward the giant's right arm. Wherever they passed, the void was easily cut open, revealing countless pitch-black marks. The yellow turban giant looked up, but its right arm had not yet been pulled back, so it could not dodge in time. Continuous metallic impacts rang out, producing loud blasts. Green and gold radiance flickered once between the claw net and the giant's arm, then vanished. The razor-sharp talons only paused slightly, like thin paper. The golden light shattered just like that. With a ripping sound, the green claw net cut cleanly down. The yellow turban giant's right arm was severed at the front, as if it had been made of tofu. Han Li, transformed into the Azure Luan, showed a pleased look. But at that moment, a sudden change occurred. The severed giant hand's surface lit up with strands of golden spirit markings. In the next instant, it exploded, and a vast spread of mysterious yellow-brown mist roared outward, forming a gigantic dark brown cloud. This cloud covered more than 10 mu. Although the Azure Luan sensed something wrong and flapped its wings to turn and leave, the cloud was simply too enormous. It was still partially engulfed. It felt the surrounding air suddenly tighten, and its body immediately became extremely sluggish. Within the mysterious yellow-brown mist, strands of thin golden thread suddenly appeared, fiercely wrapping around its limbs. The Azure Luan let out a clear cry, about to flap its wings and struggle. The golden threads trembled slightly, and countless yellow talisman symbols surged out. The Azure Luan instantly felt the surrounding void sink again, as if a massive mountain were pressing down. Moving even a little became extremely difficult, but in the next moment, a large mass of silver flames burst out, enveloping its entire body. A sizzling sound rang out as the thin golden threads were continuously melted and scattered. Yet from all directions, countless thin threads continued to surge in, one after another, and once again bound it tightly. However, while the threads kept gathering, the Azure Luan seized a chance to move. Blue light flickered in its eyes as it tried to find an opening to escape through the surrounding void. Suddenly, the surrounding space darkened. At the same time, an invisible force descended. "Not good," Han Li cried inwardly. Immediately after, an enormous, bizarre hand suddenly appeared from one direction, almost within arm's reach. The thick fingerprints were clearly visible as it reached toward the center without a word, grabbing fiercely. In the urgent moment, golden light flashed around Han Li. In an instant, he transformed back into the mountain giant ape, his entire body covered in golden fur. Boom! 5 massive fingers suddenly closed. The giant hand seized the golden fur giant ape. The giant ape bared its teeth and widened its eyes, feeling waves of invisible immense force pressing down on him like mountains collapsing and seas overturning. A loud explosion rang out. Fortunately, his physical body was strong enough that for the moment, he could still hold on. What truly frightened him was that the Essence Flame Silverfire against this giant hand did not cause the slightest damage. The mysterious yellow-brown mist around them roared and rolled back, revealing the gigantic yellow turban giant standing not far away. Its wax-yellow face showed its teeth in a grin. Its left hand was firmly gripping the giant ape's body. Golden light on the giant's chest flashed several times, and then a shocking scene appeared. The mysterious yellow-brown mist surged toward the wound where its arm had been severed. It rolled and gathered, and a new arm immediately formed. Without another word, it raised that arm, clenched its 5 fingers into a fist like a small mountain, and slammed it down toward the giant ape's head. The massive fist had not yet struck its target, but the terrifying brute force contained within it already made the nearby void within a range of nearly 100 jang explode with a loud bang and twist violently. Seeing this, the giant ape transformed by Han Li secretly cried out in misery. Although his body was strong, if that enormous fist smashed directly onto his head, even if he did not die, he would be severely injured. "It can only be like this," Han Li muttered to himself. He urged his technique in his heart, and suddenly purple light burst brilliantly from his body. With a loud bang, the yellow turban giant's punch came crashing down, but in the next instant, shock appeared on its face. This punch, as if it had not anticipated it, smashed apart the head of the giant ape below. Instead, with a boom, its own palm was pierced straight through by a streak of purple light. Its other hand also curled its 5 fingers as if they had been broken. Rolling purple radiance surged, then suddenly shrank, revealing a body more than 2 to 3 jang tall. This was a golden giant ape. However, what was different was that the giant ape's body was covered in countless purple scales. A single green horn grew from the top of its head. On both shoulders and along its ribs, 2 skull heads had grown respectively. The giant ape also had 4 long arms, its fur turning from gold to purple gold. Han Li had suddenly unleashed his hidden divine ability. This was the Nirvana Sacred Body. The yellow turban giant looked at the 6-armed giant ape in front of it with a solemn expression. It quickly regained its stance, Its two hands hummed with power as golden radiance appeared on them. Large golden talisman symbols shot out, spinning rapidly before flashing and merging into its fists. In an instant, its fists expanded severalfold. A terrifying brute force gathered within them like a mountain about to erupt. Although it had not yet burst forth, its influence already caused the nearby void to ripple and distort. After transforming, the six-armed giant ape saw this and let out a long shout. It stepped back once, then suddenly appeared before the several hundred jang-tall yellow turban giant. Whoosh! Its two fists swung out. Golden radiance blazed on its fists. The yellow turban giant had no choice but to throw punches to meet it head-on. Boom! Boom! Four fists collided, releasing a tremendous explosion. The nearby void immediately hummed loudly, and a vast, surging force spread out, causing the surrounding space to ripple. This time, the six-armed giant ape did not move. The yellow turban giant's body, however, was shaken and sent flying backward. Not only that, both of its fists became blurred with smashed flesh and blood, and both arms bent at a bizarre angle, completely broken. The giant's eyes filled with disbelief as its enormous body was hurled backward and slammed into a mountain. With a loud crash, the mountain collapsed as if it were thin paper. The yellow turban giant did not stop, continuing to fly backward, crashing through several more mountains before it barely stabilized its body. But at that moment, purple gold light flashed. The six-armed giant ape had already followed like a shadow. The yellow turban giant was startled, but it did not panic. Its chest continuously poured out a large curtain of radiance that quickly spread over its broken arms, rapidly healing the injuries. At the same time, its right leg swept sideways like a gigantic blade, slashing fiercely toward the huge ape. A violent brute force surged out, forming a thick, massive blast wave. The six-armed giant ape's body suddenly sank. Its expression was extremely grim. Like a roly-poly doll, it rolled and tumbled, barely dodging the giant's kick, but it then burst forward violently, crashing into the lower part of the giant's body. Its two upper purple gold arms slashed and hugged tightly around the giant's massive form, once again smashing the giant backward. The yellow turban giant's face turned pale with shock. Golden radiance erupted across its body. It had no time to heal its arms and could only raise them to struggle with all its strength. The giant ape's arms, like cold steel, seized both of the giant's hands with a vicious grip. Crack! Both arms snapped again. At the same time, the two upper arms of the giant ape flashed with purple gold light, and a glossy metallic layer suddenly appeared. They stabbed fiercely toward the giant's chest. Poof! The two arms pierced straight through the giant's body, churning with a series of movements. The yellow turban giant instantly froze. The light in its eyes rapidly dimmed to an extreme. Its hands also stopped accordingly. A furious expression appeared on the phantom wax-yellow face. Then with a bang, it shattered and vanished. Han Li's two arms trembled. He pulled out from within the yellow turban giant's body a golden bean, radiating dazzling light. The yellow turban giant's body shuddered. As Han Li withdrew his arms, all the golden light on its body dissipated. Its legs instinctively stumbled back several steps. Cracks appeared all over the surface of its thousand jang body. Then it rapidly shattered, turning into a mass of yellow mist that drifted away on the wind. Almost at the same time, the six-armed giant ape's aura plunged. Purple gold light flashed over its body as it transformed back into human form. His face was extremely pale. He hurriedly flipped his hand, took out a cloud crane herb, and immediately swallowed it. Only then did his complexion look slightly better. Watching the yellow mist in front of him gradually disperse, Han Li let out a long breath, relief flashing in his eyes. Although the yellow turban giant had no spells, its body was extremely powerful. Its brute strength was likely not much weaker than that of a so-called mysterious immortal. If he had not unleashed the Nirvana transformation, he would not have been a match at all. But this required a powerful body and also consumed a great deal of magical power. With his current reserves, he fundamentally could not sustain it. Moreover, this also depended on the 6th-layer completion of the Little Big Dipper origin technique. Originally, he would have needed to absorb a vast amount of heaven and earth spiritual energy to recover even a little of the effect and might of the 5-organ origin technique, allowing his internal organs to store part of his magical power. Even so, this action consumed dozens of times the innate purple energy. Though it was not beneficial, upon discovering unusual movement in the integration stage area, he had no choice but to consume all the Cloud Crane herbs on his body. Even then, it was only barely enough for him to hold on for a limited time, and it was impossible to reach his peak. Fortunately, the yellow turban giant did not react in time. Otherwise, the moment he transformed, if the giant had immediately turned and fled so long as it bought even a little time, then the one who would be in trouble now would be him. As the medicinal power of the Cloud Crane herb continuously transformed into magical power, Han Li's complexion quickly recovered. He glanced at the bean in his hand, raised his eyebrows slightly, then flipped his hand and put it away. In a spacious courtyard in Blackwater City in the Immortal Realm, Boneflame, Scattered Person, and True Person Jing Ming stood side by side, neither speaking. Boneflame, Scattered Person's face, already wax yellow, looked unpleasant. A fierce aura radiated from his body as if he wanted to devour someone alive. True Person Jing Ming's expression was not much better. After a long while, he slowly said, "I don't know what kind of person this one truly is. Not only could my Spirit Sword Talisman do nothing to him, even Brother Yan." As he said this, he could not help but sigh, but he did not continue. "I truly did not expect that my Yellow Turban Bean General, with strength close to a mysterious immortal, would be defeated by a mere minor immortal." "Boneflame Scattered Person," said through clenched teeth. "This time, I did not hesitate to pay the price to temporarily break space open and create a passage to send down a Mother Bean. Who would have thought that not long after, I would lose contact with it? This makes me so regretful I could spit blood." It seems that either the 10 Directions Pavilion's intelligence has a problem, or Han Li has encountered some special opportunity and has restored his original strength. But if that is the case, I fear my sect and you, Taoist, down in the lower realm, will run into trouble. We must think of a new method quickly. "True Person," Jing Ming said, lowering his voice in thought. This matter cannot be let go so easily," Boneflame Scattered Person said, his gaze growing even darker. In the spirit realm, within the integration stage area, Hat Mountain Taoist saw Han Li walking toward him with a cold expression. His body could not help but tremble, and his whole frame shook slightly. If not for the restrictions trapping him, he would have already fled. Like those disciples, he would have fled even faster. Han Li stopped and observed Hat Mountain for a moment. Then he raised his hand and pointed toward the other's brow. "Han Sr., spare my life. I was only acting under orders. I truly had no choice," Hat Mountain shouted in panic, cold sweat pouring down his back. Han Li frowned, paused the movement of his hand, and asked with a faint smile, "You say you were acting under whose orders?" "Everything that happened was under the orders of our ancestor in the upper realm. Otherwise, how would I dare commit such a rebellious act?" Hat Mountain answered without thinking, speaking hurriedly. "Why would your integration stage area's ancestor give such an order? Could he know me?" Han Li continued. "According to the ancestor, there is a secret organization in the Immortal Realm that has placed a bounty for capturing you, Senior. The reward is so rich that a minor cultivator like me can hardly imagine it. Boneflame, ancestor of the Heavenly Ghost sect, learned of this and came to entice our sect's ancestor, which led to this situation. I am truly wronged," Hat Mountain said after thinking briefly, then hurriedly replied. "Wronged? You make it sound too simple," Han Li sneered. "Boneflame Scattered Person received the order to hunt me down. Could it be that your True Person Jing Ming didn't know about it?" Hat Mountain Taoist was left speechless, but he still tried to respond. Perhaps the two ancestors devised the plan together. A lowly junior like me truly doesn't know the details. Since it was the ancestor's order, even if I wanted to oppose it, I could only obey." Han Li heard this but remained silent. After thinking for a moment, he vaguely had a guess. Hat Mountain Taoist saw Han Li's silence and assumed he was hesitating over whether to take his life. He grew even more terrified and gritted his teeth as he said, "Senior's divine abilities are unmatched. From this day on, I, Hat Mountain, am willing to acknowledge you as my master. All resources and elixirs will be offered to you. From now on, the entire integration stage area will be under your command for you to use. Acknowledging me as your master, you are indeed someone who knows what is best for you," Han Li said, slightly startled. He could not help but find it amusing. With his temperament, given how far things had gone, he had not intended to spare the other's life. Yet before he had even performed a soul search, this Great Ascension cultivator had already honestly confessed everything and even volunteered to submit. This spared him quite a bit of trouble. After all, Han Li also did not want to stir up too great a storm in this small spirit realm. Speaking of it, back in the spirit realm, he had met quite a few Great Ascension cultivators, but none had been like Hat Mountain Taoist before him. This person reminded him of an old acquaintance, Su Urkyu. "Many thanks for Senior's great mercy," Hat Mountain Taoist said respectfully when he saw Han Li did not refuse. "I have no interest in your integration stage area, and I can't be bothered to do something like smashing a nest and stealing eggs. From now on, you only need to follow my instructions and do a few things for me." Han Li waved his sleeve and said, "But before that, I want to place some restrictions on you." As he spoke, he extended one hand and began chanting an incantation. His 5 fingers suddenly flared with light. Threads as fine as silk extended from his fingertips, drifting in midair. When Han Li lifted his hand, those threads immediately became abnormally straight and rigid. Seeing this, Hat Mountain Taoist's body trembled and his face turned pale, but he still assumed a posture of letting himself be handled, not daring to resist. Han Li's gaze showed a hint of satisfaction. He opened his palm, and the threads shot out, aiming straight at the other's brow. When the threads entered Hat Mountain Taoist's body, he felt a stabbing pain in his sea of consciousness, as if pricked by needles. He could not help letting out a stifled cry, his face turning even whiter. Yet from beginning to end, he did not resist at all. These threads were formed from my divine sense and have been planted deep into your soul. If you dare harbor the slightest disloyal intent in the future, then with a single thought, I can make your soul scatter completely. Do you understand? Han Li said calmly as he waved his hand and withdrew the silver flames in front of him. I understand. From now on, I will definitely serve with all my strength and absolutely will not be two-minded, Hat Mountain Taoist said. He crawled up from the ground, lowered his head, and showed submission. No need to swear loyalty. Tell me, where is the formation that connects to the immortal realm? Han Li said directly, changing the subject. It is all behind Sky Soaring Peak. I will lead you there, Hat Mountain Taoist replied without hesitation. High in the sky, 2 streaks of red light shot upward, one after another, flying into the distance. Not long after, the integration stage area, which had already regained quiet, suddenly rang with 2 loud booms in succession. In less than the time of an incense stick, this scene made many disciples who had just returned to the sect panic again. But aside from the 2 explosions, there were no other strange signs, so they felt reassured. After all, too many things had happened over the past night. More than 1/3 of the integration stage area had been completely changed. The Grand Elder was missing. What else could not happen? After about half an hour, deep within a mountain in the integration stage area, 2 figures, one fat, one thin, flew in from afar and went straight into the central Great Hall. In the center of the hall was a white jade platform carved with complex, clearly defined patterns. It was a formation, this was the teleportation formation to the Heavenly Ghost Sect. Han Li turned his head and looked at the formation in front of him, then asked, Yes, this connects all the way to Blackwind Mountain of the Heavenly Ghost Sect. Although it cannot enter their core area, it will still reach their mountain gate, Hat Mountain hurriedly replied. Good. Then come with me, Han Li said with a smile. At Jadewind Peak of the Heavenly Ghost Sect, inside a silent great hall, a middle-aged man in a red brocade robe sat in the main seat. He had peach blossom eyes and an amiable face, but his skin was snow white like a sick person, making him look weak. However, at this moment, his expression was extremely ugly. One hand gripped the armrest tightly, and he spoke in a hoarse voice. Yesterday, in the Soul Tablet Hall, we discovered that the soul tablets of the 2 Grand Elders shattered one after another. Using a secret technique to contact them, we still received no reply. What do you all think of this? Although more than a dozen integration stage cultivators sat on the left and right below, their expressions were grave and none spoke. The hall was silent. After a long silence, a burly man with thick beard and a headscarf could not hold back and stood up. Sectmaster, it must be that the soul tablets had a problem. Grand Elder Tong is the #1 cultivator of the spirit realm. In this realm, who could make him fall? Exactly, there must be some mistake, someone in the hall immediately agreed. Deputy Elder, these soul tablets are refined by secret arts from a portion of the cultivator's soul and a portion of their essence blood. For tens of thousands of years, has there ever been an error? A man in thin red silk trousers, with beauty like a woman, stood up and frowned as he questioned the bearded man in return. The bearded man froze, mouth open, wanting to refute but not knowing what to say. The soul tablets are certainly not wrong, but it is absolutely impossible that the 2 Grand Elders simply fell. Could it be that they were trapped by some special formation that cut off their connection with the soul tablets? A hunched elder spoke up. Sectmaster, no matter what happened, the 2 Grand Elders went to the integration stage area, and to this day, there is no news. To prevent anything abnormal, we should activate all defensive restrictions in the sect and quickly contact the ancestors. That would be the proper course. A middle-aged man with a sharply defined face wearing a purple headscarf stood up and said to the red-robed man in the main seat. The man stopped rubbing his forehead and said, I was thinking the same thing. The matter of activating the restrictions will be handed to Elder Lu. You go do it. As for contacting the ancestor, I will... Before he could finish, they suddenly heard a loud booming sound. With a thunderous rumble, the entire great hall shook. What happened? Everyone was shocked. At the same time, more than 10 streaks of red light shot out of the Great Hall and rushed toward the plaza. At this moment, in the sky outside the hall, a black light screen had appeared, covering a range of several hundred LI. It was the Heavenly Ghost Sect's grand sect-protecting formation. The black light screen covered more than 10 mountains below. This was the core region of the Heavenly Ghost Sect. Almost all important places of the sect were located there. They saw that the black light screen was now filled with dim light moving everywhere. Talisman symbols were scattered in disorder, showing that it was no longer stable at all. Outside the light screen, a golden-furred giant ape over 10 jang tall was raising its hands, preparing to smash down on the black light screen that was swaying on the verge of collapse. Boom, boom, 2 tremendous explosions rang out as the giant ape's massive fist struck the black light screen. The light screen immediately rippled, caving in deeply where it was hit, and even emitted piercing, sizzling sound. Where did this evil creature come from with such terrifying strength? This evil creature looks somewhat like the legendary True Spirit Mountain Giant Ape. Could it be? No matter what, since it dares come to the Heavenly Ghost Sect to show off, we must capture it. The thick-bearded, headscarf-wearing Deputy Elder roared. 7 or 8 integration stage cultivators looked at the golden-furred giant ape outside the formation and were startled. After making different guesses, they all activated treasures to attack the giant ape. Elder Lu was about to rise into the air, but a strange look suddenly appeared in his eyes. He stopped and did not rush to attack. Besides the Heavenly Ghost Sect's Sect Master, there was also the old hunchback, the beautiful woman, and the one-eyed, burly man. The 4 of them were exactly the ones who had used the Nine Heavens demonic flame against Han Li at Demon Burial Gorge that day. At this moment, they exchanged glances, all seeing a trace of fear in each other's eyes. At the same time, countless escape lights flashed from the surrounding mountains of the Heavenly Ghost Sect. Nearly all disciples and elders flew over, watching the situation in confusion. The golden-furred giant ape acted as if it did not see the people rushing over. Not only did it not stop, it even roared in rage. Golden light flashed on its fists as it swung wildly at the black light screen. Boom, boom. After a series of tremendous explosions, the black light screen trembled violently, warping and deforming until it could no longer withstand the pressure. It instantly shattered into pieces. The giant ape's massive body passed through the broken formation and descended onto the mountain peak. At the same time, the integration stage elders of Jade Wind Peak had already charged out to meet it. The first to rush forward was the deputy elder. He roared angrily. A rolling blood-red mist surged around him, condensing into a blood-armored giant ghost, nearly 50 to 60 jang tall. The giant ghost gripped a massive mountain-splitting axe drenched in fresh blood and chopped down at the giant ape's head. Wherever the axe passed, countless blood-colored vortices appeared. A terrifying suction force came from them, as if it wanted to swallow everything nearby into the axe. Following behind the blood-armored giant were several strange treasures of different colors and shapes. Some carried rolling black smoke. Some stirred up a surging river of blood that covered half the sky. Their momentum was extremely ferocious. In an instant, the heavens filled with furious killing cries. Thick blood aura spread like 10,000 ghosts wailing, souls demanding lives, and the surrounding temperature also dropped. The golden-furred giant ape snorted lightly. Its falling momentum did not slow. It raised an arm and slapped toward the ghost mist and blood river. Pop! Pop! An indescribably powerful shockwave, like a 100 jang high wall, pressed down with effortless ease. The blood-armored giant ghost, transformed by the deputy elder's expression, changed drastically. The blood axe was wrapped up by the shockwave and instantly shattered. Immediately after, his body seemed to be struck by a massive boulder, and it exploded into a burst of bloodlight, scattering everywhere. The black clouds and blood mist behind had not even made contact yet when they were blasted apart by the invisible brute force. The bone, swords, skulls, and other hidden treasures within were all smashed to pieces. Screams rang out repeatedly in the sky. As treasures were destroyed one after another, some people spat blood and fell from midair. The remaining ones were so terrified that they frantically fled in all directions. In the next moment, the huge body of the golden giant ape fell straight down like a meteor. The earth shook as dust clouds rose. Half the mountain instantly collapsed. Those near the impact site cried out in alarm. Several hundred streaks of light rapidly fled in all directions. At this time, amid a chaotic mass of bloodlight in midair, a nascent soul only a few inches tall suddenly shot out. Its features looked very similar to the deputy elder surnamed Fu, and its face was filled with terror as it fled into the distance. But just as the nascent soul barely managed to release its glow, a large figure silently drew close beside it. It was Hat Mountain Taoist. Hat Mountain's face did not change as he slapped down with one palm. Before the nascent soul could even let out a cry, it instantly turned into a burst of red light and exploded into nothing. This is the end of this episode. Everyone, remember to press like and subscribe to the channel to watch the next parts.